If you watched our previous video, you learned the power of controlling your own mask, choosing what to reveal and what to conceal to protect your leverage. Today, we shift our focus outward, mastering the art of seeing through the masks others wear to reveal their true intentions instantly. They will lie to your face with perfect sincerity. They will smile while plotting your downfall. They will praise you while poisoning your reputation behind closed doors. And you, if you listen only to their words, will walk blindly into every trap they set. But what if I told you that everyone reveals their true intentions within the first 60 seconds of meeting you? Not through what they say. Anyone can rehearse words. Through what they cannot control. Through the microscopic betrayals of their body, the timing of their responses, the subjects they avoid, and the tells they broadcast without knowing. Machiavelli understood that human beings are not mysteries to be solved, but machines to be decoded, predictable, readable, transparent to those who know where to look. While others waste time believing the performance, you will learn to see past the mask to the machinery underneath. Today, you will master the lost art of reading intentions instantly, not through guesswork or intuition, but through systematic observation of behavioral patterns that have remained unchanged for 500 years. By the end of this, you will walk into any room and know within minutes who wants to use you, who fears you, who respects you, and who is planning to betray you. The ability to read people is not a gift, it is a skill. And like every skill, it can be learned by those disciplined enough to see people as they are, rather than as they pretend to be. Most people believe communication happens through language. This is the first delusion that keeps them vulnerable. Real communication happens in the pause before the words, in the micro-expression that flashes across someone's face before they remember to control it, in the shift of posture when their comfort is threatened. Machiavelli advised princes to watch what men do, not what they say they will do. The same principle applies to reading intentions. When someone tells you they are trustworthy, ignore the words. Watch their behavior when they think no one is looking. When they claim to have your interests at heart, observe what they do when your interests conflict with theirs. The untrained person listens to words and believes them. The strategic person watches reactions and reads them. Train yourself to focus not on the content of what someone says, but on their delivery. Do they hesitate before answering certain questions? Do their eyes dart away when discussing specific topics? Do they shift their weight or change their breathing pattern when the conversation moves in certain directions? These involuntary responses reveal what their conscious mind is trying to hide. The person who claims to be calm while their hands fidget is battling internal tension. The person who maintains eye contact too intensely is overcompensating for dishonesty. The person whose voice drops when discussing their achievements is revealing insecurity about their accomplishments. Machiavelli believed that a person's true character emerges only under pressure. Anyone can maintain a pleasant facade when everything is comfortable. But when stress enters the system, the mask slips, and you see what lies beneath. Create small moments of pressure, and watch how they respond. Not through confrontation or obvious testing, but through subtle shifts that reveal their true nature. Change the subject abruptly and see if they follow your lead or resist the transition. Ask them to make a small decision quickly and observe their process. Present them with an opinion that differs from what they expect and watch their initial reaction before they formulate their response. The secure person remains consistent under mild pressure. Their core personality does not shift with changing circumstances. The insecure person becomes defensive, aggressive, or withdrawn when their comfort is threatened. The manipulative person immediately begins calculating how to turn the pressure to their advantage. Watch how they handle interruptions. Do they become irritated when their planned speech is disrupted, or do they adapt smoothly? This tells you whether they are speaking from genuine conviction or delivering a rehearsed performance. The person speaking authentically can handle interruptions because they are drawing from real thoughts and feelings. The person delivering a performance becomes frustrated because you have disrupted their script. Every person broadcasts energy that reveals their internal state. This is not mysticism. This is biology. Stress, excitement, fear, and aggression all create physiological changes that trained observers can detect. The person who claims to be relaxed while their breathing is shallow and rapid is lying to themselves as much as to you. Learn to read the energy signatures of different emotional states. Fear makes people contract. They take up less space. Their movements become more constrained. Their voice becomes quieter or more controlled. Aggression makes people expand. They lean forward, take up more space. Their gestures become broader. Their voice becomes more forceful. Deception creates a specific energy signature because lying requires cognitive effort. The person who is lying must remember what they have said, ensure consistency with previous statements, and monitor your reactions to gauge whether you believe them. This mental load creates microstresses that manifest physically. Watch for incongruence between their stated emotional state and their physical energy. The person who claims to be excited about an opportunity while their energy is flat and contained is revealing their true feelings. The person who insists they are calm while radiating nervous energy is fighting an internal battle they do not want to acknowledge. People reveal their priorities through what they guard most carefully and what they move toward most consistently. This happens regardless of what they claim to value. Their actions, their attention, and their protection patterns tell the real story. Notice what topics make them uncomfortable. Not obviously sensitive subjects, but the subtle shifts that occur when certain areas are approached. The person who becomes slightly more formal when discussing their background is protecting something about their past. The person whose energy shifts when money is mentioned is revealing their relationship with financial security. Watch what they pursue when they think no one is watching. Where does their attention go when they believe they are unobserved? What do they check on their phone? What catches their eye in a room? What do they ask about when the formal conversation ends? These unconscious pursuits reveal their true interests and desires. Pay attention to what they remember and what they forget. Memory is selective, and people tend to remember what matters to them and forget what does not serve their interests. The person who remembers every slight against them but forgets their promises to others is revealing their true priorities. The person who recalls details about people who might be useful to them while forgetting information about those who cannot advance their interests is showing you their calculating nature. Every person is driven by a primary fear and a primary desire. These core motivations shape every decision they make, every relationship they form, and every strategy they employ. Once you identify these patterns, you can predict their behavior in almost any situation. Machiavelli understood that men are driven by two fundamental forces, the desire to acquire and the fear of loss. Everything else is merely a variation on these themes. The person driven by acquisition will take risks, push boundaries, and sacrifice relationships for advancement. The person driven by fear of loss will seek security, avoid confrontation, and maintain the status quo even when it serves them poorly. Common fear patterns include fear of being exposed as inadequate, fear of losing control, fear of being abandoned, fear of missing opportunities, fear of being judged, fear of financial insecurity, fear of irrelevance, fear of confrontation. Each fear creates specific behavioral patterns that trained observers can recognize. The person driven by fear of inadequacy will either overcompensate by boasting about their achievements or undercompensate by deflecting praise and minimizing their accomplishments. The person afraid of losing control will insist on making decisions, resist surprises, and become uncomfortable when they cannot predict outcomes. The person afraid of abandonment will either cling too tightly to relationships or maintain excessive emotional distance to avoid the pain of potential loss. Watch what energizes them and what deflates them. The person seeking recognition lights up when praised and dims when ignored. The person craving security relaxes when discussing stable situations and tenses when facing uncertainty. The person wanting power becomes more animated when discussing influence and control, and more withdrawn when feeling powerless. The most dangerous deception is not the lies people tell you, it is the lies they tell themselves. Because when someone has convinced themselves that their false narrative is true, they can deliver it with complete conviction. They pass every lie detector test because they genuinely believe their own fiction. Machiavelli observed that men are naturally inclined towards self-deception because truth is often uncomfortable. As he noted in his observations of human nature, men are so simple and so ready to obey present necessities that the one who deceives will always find someone who will let himself be deceived. But the deepest deception occurs when people deceive themselves about their own motivations. Self-deception serves multiple psychological functions. It protects the ego from uncomfortable truths, maintains a positive self-image, and reduces cognitive dissonance when actions conflict with values. The person who treats others poorly while believing they are kind must create elaborate mental justifications to maintain this contradiction. Learn to recognize the signs of self-deception. The person whose explanations are overly complex is usually constructing a narrative to avoid simple, uncomfortable truths. The person who becomes defensive when their motives are questioned is protecting a story they need to believe about themselves. The person whose behavior consistently contradicts their stated values is living in a state of managed self-deception. Self-deceived individuals often have specific tells. They over-explain simple situations. They become emotionally intense when discussing their motivations. And they frequently mention their good intentions as if stating them makes them true. They also tend to project their hidden motivations onto others, assuming that everyone else is as calculating or dishonest as they are. Machiavelli understood that every person presents a carefully constructed public image while harboring private thoughts and desires that may directly contradict that image. He recognized this as a fundamental aspect of human nature, writing that men are ungrateful, fickle, false, cowardly, covetous. The public face is calculated and conscious. It is designed to create specific impressions and achieve particular goals. The private truth is often unconscious and authentic. It contains the impulses, desires, and characteristics that the conscious mind rejects or fears. Watch for moments when the public face slips and the private truth emerges. This happens during stress, fatigue, surprise, or strong emotion. The controlled person who suddenly becomes explosive is revealing their private anger. The agreeable person who makes a cutting remark is showing their private competitiveness. The generous person who hesitates before helping someone in need is displaying their private selfishness. Machiavelli warned that he who abandons what is done for what ought to be done sooner affects his ruin than his preservation. People who insist on maintaining their idealized public image, even when circumstances demand adaptation, are revealing their inability to separate performance from reality. The most dangerous people are those whose public faces and private truths are perfectly aligned. They have integrated their nature and can use it strategically without internal conflict. The most predictable people are those whose public faces and private truths are in constant conflict. They will always betray their public persona because their unconscious drives are stronger than their conscious control. Machiavelli famously observed that men change their rulers willingly, hoping to better themselves. This insight reveals that loyalty is not a moral choice. It is a strategic calculation. People remain loyal as long as the relationship serves their interests better than any available alternative. True loyalty is rare because it requires someone to place your interests equal to or above their own interests in specific situations. Most people who claim loyalty are actually demonstrating conditional support that will last only as long as it remains convenient or profitable. Learn to distinguish between loyalty and dependency. A dependent person needs you and will support you as long as that need exists. But dependency can be transferred. If someone else can meet their needs better, their loyalty will follow. True loyalty persists even when the loyal person must sacrifice their immediate interests for your benefit. Watch how people treat others who can no longer benefit them. The person who remains kind to former colleagues who have been demoted, who maintains friendships with people who have lost their wealth or status, who honors commitments even when circumstances change. This person has the capacity for genuine loyalty, but also watch for signs of brewing betrayal. Machiavelli noted that hatred is acquired as much by good works as by evil ones. The person whose enthusiasm for your success seems forced is struggling with envy. The person who brings you information about others. Disloyalty is probably testing your reactions to determine your vulnerability. The person who consistently positions themselves as your rescuer or advisor may be creating problems they can then solve to increase your dependence on them. People allocate their attention and respect based on unconscious cost-benefit analyses, exactly as Machiavelli predicted when he observed that men judge more by appearances than by reality. They invest more attention in people who might benefit them and show more respect to those who can influence their outcomes. Notice how quickly someone responds to your messages versus messages from others. Pay attention to how attentively they listen when you speak, compared to their attention patterns with other people. Observe how much effort they put into understanding your perspectives versus their effort to make themselves understood. The person who gives you their full attention is either genuinely interested in you or sees significant potential value in the relationship. The person whose attention frequently wanders when you speak is revealing that you are not a priority in their mental hierarchy. The person who listens carefully only when you discuss topics that might benefit them is showing you their transactional approach to the relationship. Respect patterns are equally revealing. The person who consistently interrupts you does not respect your time or your thoughts. The person who remembers details about your life shows respect through attention. The person who asks for your opinion and then ignores your advice is demonstrating performative respect. They want you to feel valued without actually valuing your input. Reading people accurately requires systematic rather than random observation. Develop a mental checklist that you apply consistently to new encounters. This transforms intuitive guesswork into reliable assessment. First 30 seconds. Notice their initial energy, posture, and eye contact patterns. Are they expanding or contracting? Are they seeking connection or maintaining distance? Are they presenting confidence or projecting insecurity? First 5 minutes. Listen to their language patterns, not their content. Do they speak in certainties or probabilities? Do they take responsibility for outcomes or deflect accountability? Do they focus on their own experiences or show curiosity about others? First 15 minutes. Test their flexibility and authenticity. Change topics and see how they adapt. Present different perspectives and observe their openness. Create mild uncertainty and watch their response to ambiguity. Ongoing observation. Monitor consistency between their early presentation and their sustained behavior. Look for energy shifts, attention patterns, and respect indicators. Notice what topics engage them and what subjects they avoid. As Machiavelli noted, the promise given was a necessity of the past. The word broken is a necessity of the present. Watch for the moments when someone's immediate interests conflict with their previous commitments. Their choices in these moments reveal their true character. Exercise 1. The silent assessment practice, reading people without hearing their words. In public spaces, observe conversations from a distance where you cannot hear the content. Focus purely on body language, energy, and interaction patterns. See how accurately you can assess the relationship dynamics, power structures, and emotional states without linguistic information. Exercise 2. The contradiction tracker. For 1 week, keep mental notes of every inconsistency you notice between what people say and what they do. Do not judge or react, simply observe and catalog. You will begin to see patterns in how different personality types manage their contradictions. Third exercise. The pressure response test. Create small, harmless moments of uncertainty or mild challenge in your conversations. Ask unexpected questions, present alternative viewpoints, or introduce time pressure into decisions. Notice how different people respond to these minor disruptions of their comfort. Exercise 4. The energy matching challenge practice, matching someone's energy level while maintaining your awareness of their underlying state. This allows you to build rapport while staying observant rather than reactive. Notice how people respond differently when you mirror their surface energy versus when you reflect their deeper emotional state. Exercise 5. The prediction protocol. Based on your assessment of someone's fear and desire patterns, make specific predictions about their future behavior. Start with low-stakes situations and track your accuracy. Over time, You will develop confidence in your ability to anticipate actions based on motivational patterns. Individual psychology operates differently in group settings. People often reveal different aspects of their character when they are part of a collective versus when they are alone with you. Learn to read both individual intentions and group dynamics simultaneously. Watch for dominance hierarchies that emerge naturally in group conversations. Who speaks first? Who interrupts whom? Whose ideas get picked up and developed? Whose contributions get ignored or dismissed? These patterns reveal social status, influence relationships, and hidden power structures that individuals might never acknowledge directly. Notice alliance patterns during group discussions. Who makes eye contact with whom when controversial topics arise? Who supports whose positions? Who remains neutral when others are taking sides? These behaviors reveal existing relationships and potential partnerships that may not be obvious from formal organizational structures. Pay attention to energy shifts when different people join or leave group conversations. The person whose energy increases when someone arrives sees that person as an ally or an opportunity. The person whose energy decreases when someone joins may see them as a threat or a source of judgment. Develop your personal system for collecting, organizing, and applying information about people's intentions. This is not about becoming paranoid or cynical. It is about becoming strategically aware of the psychological landscape you operate in. Create mental profiles for important people in your life. Include their primary fears and desires, their communication patterns, their response to pressure, their loyalty indicators, and their respect patterns. Update these profiles as you gather new information, but remain open to the possibility that your initial assessments may be incomplete or incorrect. Learn to separate your emotional reactions from your analytical observations. The person who irritates you may still be valuable to understand. The person you find charming may still pose risks you need to recognize. Accurate intention reading requires emotional discipline and intellectual honesty about your own biases and preferences. Practice systematic skepticism without becoming cynical. Question your assumptions about people's motivations while remaining open to evidence that contradicts your initial assessments. The goal is not to assume everyone has negative intentions, but to see clearly whatever intentions actually exist. The master of intention reading eventually learns to control their own signals while maintaining their ability to read others. This creates an asymmetric advantage. You can see them clearly while remaining opaque to their attempts to read you. Control your reaction patterns so that people cannot easily predict your responses or manipulate your emotions. Develop the ability to remain calm and observant regardless of what you discover about someone's intentions. The person who can see clearly without revealing what they see holds enormous strategic advantage. Learn to present different aspects of yourself strategically rather than automatically. This is not deception. It is conscious choice about which parts of your complete self to emphasize in different contexts. The person who reveals everything about themselves gives others too much information to use against them. But remember that the ultimate purpose of reading intentions is not to manipulate others. It is to protect yourself, make better decisions, and navigate human relationships more effectively. Use this skill to avoid betrayal, identify genuine allies, and invest your trust wisely, rather than using it to exploit others. The person who masters intention reading gains something invaluable: the ability to move through the world with clear sight, rather than blind hope. You will no longer be surprised by betrayal, because you will see it coming. You will no longer waste time on false promises, because you will recognize the intentions behind them. You will no longer be manipulated by emotional performances, because you will see the calculations underneath. This is the true power that Machiavelli understood. Not the ability to deceive others, but the ability to see through deception. Not the skill to manipulate, but the wisdom to remain unmanipulated. In a world where everyone wears masks, the person who can see faces holds the ultimate advantage. Transformation waits for no perfect moment or external permission. It begins the instant you decide to break free from your past. The change starts now, in this very moment. The choice is yours. You can cling to familiar patterns that have kept you confined, or you can embrace the creative discomfort of rising above the average. Remember, no one will make this decision for you. Do not wait for another sign or permission. The power to transform is already in your hands. The journey to becoming unreadable while reading others starts here. Choose wisely. Your future depends on it.